Hello, this is Mountain Grand. Today is Monday, September 11th, 2023. You may be wondering what you're looking at here. This is in my back garden. These are actually 2 cattle panel trellises with squash vines growing on them. The one on the left is covered with Cucuzzi squash. The one on the right is Tromboncino squash. At least that's the way it was planned when I started my garden in the spring. They have crisscrossed over each other. These squash have just decided this year to go totally wild, crazy growing. I've always grown the Tromboncino on a cattle panel trellis because it makes it very easy to pick them, gives you plenty of access in underneath the trellis so that you can get in there to pick them. I'm going to show you what the squash look like, if I can get to them here. Down in here, there's a Tromboncino squash. It is, of course, in front of the cattle panel trellis. It's supposed to be Cucuzzi squash. These Cucuzzi squash have never been able to get started before, but this year they not only started, but they took off like crazy. Most of the leaves get huge, like this one here. They're like 24 inches across. I have on several occasions not seen squash because of the density of all of these vines. 4 days ago, I picked all the squash. I cut back a lot of the vines, including getting all of the vines cleared off of this section of the lawn. But as you can see, they've grown out probably at least 8, if not 10 feet from where they were. I was able to get in underneath this trellis here by cutting back some vines. There are some leaves dying off. I do need to get in here and cut some more leaves. But I just have to go in underneath it when I can get underneath it. Right here is a Tromboncino squash. I'm going to pull this back and you'll see there's the bottom gourd part of the squash, the part that the seeds are in, and it's ready to be picked. But right now I've got 4 squash inside. I haven't had a very big garden this year, haven't had a lot of production because I'm still not feeling up to gardening. But these squash are absolutely out of control. Right along here, all of these on the ground have grown on top of my asparagus fern from the spring asparagus crop. I always let my asparagus grow through the fall to feed the roots so they'll have more asparagus the next year. But in this case, the squash have taken over. They've gone up here, across the basil, up onto the cattle panel that I have tomatoes on. The tomatoes haven't been doing well, but the squash is really enjoying the cattle panel trellis. Here's another small Tromboncino right here. I don't know what to say about these things. I've never seen anything grow so totally out of control. It's not like it's the first year I've grown Tromboncino. I love Tromboncino squash. We've been eating them every way imaginable. We've been fixing them out on the Blackstone griddle, doing stir fries with them. We have done Japanese, we've done Mexican, we've done Mediterranean. There are more vines here that have gone up this other trellis that I didn't plant anything on this year, and it's a good thing because the squash have decided that's their trellis. One thing I noticed a while ago when wandering around here, these leaves here, you can see where they've been eaten off. I'm not sure at this point if it's deer or rabbits eating leaves. We definitely have plenty of leaves to share. I do know that we've had tomato hornworms this year. Now the hornworms have not been anywhere near the tomatoes. I planted these huge basil. They started out small, but they're now huge basil plants, and that's supposed to be effective in keeping down the tomato hornworms, getting them away from the tomatoes, which they seem to have done. But I have found 3 tomato hornworms this year, and that's more than I've ever found before. I'm gonna move in closely here, and you can see there are the ferns from the asparagus in amongst all of these vines. But yes, the squash is just taking over, and we've really enjoyed it. I'm seed saving for next year, but I'm just wondering how many plants I want to plant. You're probably thinking I planted about 50 plants. I believe I had 5 of the Cucuzzi squash, and I had 6 Tromboncino. Like I said, the Tromboncino are over here, and they're supposed to be over there to the right, and the Cucuzzi are over on the right, and they started out over here on the left. So if you want to plant these kind of squash, they are great squash. They have very tender skin. The Cucuzzi, you do need to pick them small, otherwise the skin does get tough. The reason I started growing these 2 varieties is I've had massive problems with squash vine borers here. And these 2 varieties are in fact resistant to the squash vine borers. And I mean, I've opened up one of the vines recently on the Tromboncino. It was hard as a tree, and inside of it, I had seen some frass on the outside. Inside of the squash vine, I found a vine borer, and it was like it couldn't go any further because of the firmness of the vines. I believe that's why they're so resistant. Anyway, squash are doing well this year, and I highly recommend that if you have any problems with squash vine borers, that you try the Cucuzzi or the Tromboncino. We love them both. The Tromboncino has a very soft skin. It has a milder taste than a yellow squash. You can use it in any recipes where you would use a yellow squash, and yellow summer squash is what I'm talking about. But try them out, and just make sure you leave plenty of room for them to grow in case they have a year like this year, or they just decide to go wild. Y'all take care.